I'm feeling so InMotional because it's been
7 hours and 15 days.
No, actually, it's been almost a year since I've had the InMotion V14 for review purposes. So after a whole year of riding on the V14 and 2,500 kilometers on the odometer, let me review this thing. Let me tell you more about it.
Wrong way.
And if you want to get a wheel like this or any other wheel in Europe, feel free to check out mywheel.com in the description below. They have a huge variety of wheels like, for example, this mighty Kingsong F22 Pro, which are not, oh my goodness. Which I'm gonna review very, very soon. Or for example, the Kingsong 18XL, which is way more reasonable of a wheel. So make sure to use my coupon code wrongway for the products that apply. I believe that the V14 is also discounted now. And yeah, highly recommend the shop. That's the shop I work with for the European region. Now, there are already several reviews of this wheel out, so I was really thinking, what new can I bring to the table?
Nothing new, nothing changed, same old shit.
Naturally, I will tell you about the things that broke on this wheel, because even though InMotion sent me this wheel for free to keep, I will tell you how it was, what parts needed to be upgraded, like for example the foot plates, or what parts would be really awesome to have stock on this wheel, like for example a reasonable seat. This one is from Grizzla. So I guess mostly I'll tell you about my long time experience with this wheel, what sort of parts and accessories I use with this wheel in order to have a better experience, and I guess I'll just have fun with the video, because hell, why not? So I think that a thing that I didn't concentrate enough about in my prior reviews is the fun factor of a wheel. Because as much as all of the parts could be right, it could be just dull to ride and not fun at all, like the InMotion V11. And I think that the InMotion V14 is the first wheel by InMotion that I really have fun on. And there is no sort of oddity about it, like, you know, the huge form factor of the V13, which I did have fun on, but a different kind of fun. This is like reasonable and manageable, and it has a nice software. And I always have a bit of a smile on when I ride, when I hear the sound of it accelerating. Just the responsiveness of the software, the certain shebang of the V14 is really cool. I think that finally InMotion realized what fun is. And for context, the main competitors of this wheel are other performance sort of electric unicycles in a 40 kilogram league with a battery that is over 2000 watt hours. So at the time when this was released, this was the Extreme. I mean, to be just inspired by the Extreme is a little understatement. This wheel has the same colors as the Extreme. I feel like they really just looked at the Bigot Extreme and made it just a little bit different. Like, copy the homework, but make sure it doesn't look exactly the same. There's also the Patton by Leaper Kim, and of course the Kingsong S22 Pro. And InMotion markets the V14 and its brother, the V14 50S, which has a black color on top and different batteries, as a adventure wheel. That's the name of it, V14 Adventure. And as much as InMotion would like you to think that this is, you know, the non plus ultra performance wheel for jumps, off-road, climbing hills, going into the mountains, I don't really think this is that. Because there's wheels that have more suspension travel, like the Extreme, which will behave better off-road, or the Lynx, which has both a bigger wheel with more traction and in my opinion, a bit more robust suspension setup, and in general a more durable construction. Or even the new Blitz, if it works, it's definitely more capable off-road than the V14. I really think that the V14 is not really like a off-road adventure wheel. I think that it's a good universal wheel for going around the city and doing some mild off-roading. Now, the performance will also allow you to climb very steep hills, but there is some limitations to it that don't make it the ultimate sort of extreme wheel or the adventure wheel. These are as following. Number one, the suspension travel is 85 millimeters. You can get a lot more on a Begode Extreme, which is better for off-roading. Number two, the center of gravity is pretty low and the batteries are also down low. So the clearance on this wheel doesn't really allow it to both hit some very gnarly off-road trails and also do some bigger jumps. The difficulty when jumping is that you might just twitch the wheel a little bit to the side and your feet, which are here in front of the pedals, are very close to the takeoff, which might cause you to fall. And then the pedals are also very down low. So I don't think it's the best jump wheel. I don't think it's the best off-road wheel. I don't think it's the wheel to choose for an off-road adventure, because then you might also just buy the Pattern S or the Pattern. Well, the Pattern S is lighter, and the Pattern S will have a lot more range than this. This is a very thirsty wheel. But what the InMotion V14 does well is that it has amazing software to go along with it. It feels great to ride. It has a good enough suspension setup for most of the sort of city stuff and doing tricks, some almost like trial-y stuff that I was doing with it, and some great features to go along with it, like, you know, good lights front and back, a great trolley handle, and some other accessories I'll talk about later. So just as a sort of intro to the review, I think that the V14 does a lot of stuff well, but it's definitely not the non-plus-ultra adventure wheel designed for off-roading. Now, of course, I'll also have to guide you through the specs. You can also check them out on the My eWheel site. We have a 2400 watt-hour battery, 134 volt peak voltage system with 4 parallels, and even with this size of a battery you won't get really as far on this wheel as the competitors. It might be due to InMotion being very conservative with their lowest voltage of each battery cell in the battery pack, or it might be the heavy motor and rim. Either way, this wheel is very thirsty in its consumption, and the maximum range I got on it was just about above 85 kilometers and was going quite slow in very fair weather. So if you want to have the wheel with the most range, this is not it for the price, sadly. Maybe there's a big difference with the 50S, but really I don't think so. If you want to charge up the wheel in the box, you get a very lame and big charger. The only good thing about it is that it's very quiet, but it's just 3 amps. So a full charge would be around, what, 6 hours? Like, really, InMotion, step it up. Like 5 amps is the minimum on the market right now, and both in a lighter casing. But then if you want to charge it up quickly, you can use one of those pit zoom chargers. There's also a coupon code for that in the description. I guess it's just wrong way. And this one goes up to 17 amps, and I believe just the 50S can go maybe up to 20 amps of charging. This one can go up to 15 amps of charging. So this wheel will have a full charge at about, what, an hour, something like that. But there's also this smaller charger by PitZoom with a touchscreen. It goes up to 14 amps, and honestly, this is my preferred method of charging this wheel and enjoy some more riding. We have a extremely powerful motor. The top speed is 70 kilometers an hour, and the torque is also insane. The software is a bit different than Begode and Leaperkim. The wheel does lean forward a bit when accelerating hard, but if you lean into it, it just goes. It's extremely powerful, and it's one of the most satisfying acceleration experiences on the market. I really like to accelerate on this wheel. Great torque, great top speed. I don't think that you need anything more than the performance of the InMotion V14. The weight of it is 40 kilograms, so in today's market it's a bit on the heavy side. We have the Blitz at 36, the Pattern S at 36. This is 40 kilograms, so it does weigh quite a bit. When going around the city, you need to sort of take into account how you lean on it, and even though it has an extremely comfortable trolley handle, it's not as easy to push around as a lighter wheel. Naturally, if you want to lift it up anywhere, you know, it's 40 kilograms, so it's better to work out a little if you're planning to have a wheel like that. Naturally, you can also push it up the stairs, but this depends on the stairs, how slippery they are, and etc, etc. So yeah, these are the basic specs. Let's talk about the features of the InMotion V14. Starting out with the tire, this is a 12-inch rim, and the tire outside sort of diameter is, what, 18 inches? It's a off-road tire, and I do like it. I do love the sound of it. It's also quite durable. You can't see pretty much anywhere on it at all, and I rode it for 2,500 kilometers. It behaves quite well off-road, but it doesn't really have a lot of feedback in a turn, so you do need to lean the wheel a lot in order to make tighter turns. I would prefer a more hybrid tire on this wheel, or even a street tire, because I think it just fits the use case of the V14 a lot better. Now, the tire change on the V14 is something that they worked on too. It's just a lot easier to remove. I think you just need to remove one battery, and then you almost have access to the whole sort of tire change process. 2 cells, 1 pack made a video about that, so that's pretty cool that InMotion did think about it. You can just buy a 12-inch tire for this wheel, or 12-inch motorcycle tire, and then you'll have a better experience. But out of the box, I would like to have something more road-oriented. I think the wheel would really come alive then too. The rim is also really durable. I don't have any dents on it, but it seems to be quite heavy too. So I think that's where a lot of the energy consumption comes from. It also has a really nice bead, and the tire sits nicely in the wheel. Now you can see that I have a lot of accessories on this wheel, and we're going from the bottom to the top of the wheel, and I'll also tell you what things were sort of stock on this wheel compared to what I have now. When it comes to those little bumpers here, they are by Grizzly, naturally coupon code there too, and they are just a lot beefier and I think more durable than the stock plasticky ones by InMotion. Furthermore, there was a kickstand here in the back, and when you're just riding in a city, I think you could leave it on, but a major drawback on the kickstand, and I don't know if anyone was talking about it, is that it creates a dent in the battery box here in the back. So I did remove it quite quickly after getting the wheel, but still it made a dent on the battery boxes. I don't know if that's something that they resolved later, but yeah, that's just poor design. I would just right away get rid of the kickstand when you get the wheel, and then you can just use the sort of front of the wheel, lean it forward as a kickstand. Moving up to the pedals, the stock pedals were these, very, very similar to what we had on the InMotion V13. Now, my main gripe with such pedals is that the studs are not interchangeable. I do like those pedals quite a bit just because we have more studs, and they stick out maybe a little bit more than usual, but when it gets wet, this becomes slippery. And if you want to really push the wheel, your foot might sort of slip within the pedal when you're accelerating, pushing your legs against the pads, which is quite dangerous. So for usual city riding, this might be enough, but definitely I would prefer those pedals to have interchangeable MTB studs like those by Nylonove. You could also get a shim. I think you get it in the box. I didn't, but usual sort of clients did get it, to have the pedals angled a bit higher. Just one setting sort of in between, without the shim and then with the shim. Now, the pedals that I have now are by Nylonove. They're made out of nylon, very durable, also very classy with the orange. And they're also sort of infinitely adjustable with the angle because you have 2 screws to adjust there. Highly recommend upgrading the pedals if you want to really push your InMotion V14. Moving up higher, let's talk about the pad fairing situation a little bit, because this wheel usually used to look like this. And the Velcro, by the way, is my invention. This wheel did come with double-sided tape underneath this sort of fairing. Well, the other side of it. Sorry, I got the wrong one.
Wrong way.
So I really don't understand why they used double-sided tape, as you need to remove this panel in order to, for example, change a tire. Anyway, with this upgrade, just Velcro on 2 sides, it's much easier to get access to what's behind here. But if you're really picky like me, I prefer the fairing by Grizzly because it's a bit bigger than the stock one. If you see here, there's just a lot more space for your pads, especially for the brake pads. So if you want to have a better setup on your wheel, just buy this additional fairing kit by Grizzly. When it comes to the stock pads, those are the stock pads. You've probably seen them on other wheels, like on Veteran, etc. I can put them on the panel here. Oh, it's the wrong panel again.
Wrong way.
They go like this, but you can also sort of change them and mix left and right, put this one here, put this one here. But they are plenty enough for pretty much anything you want to do with the InMotion V14. Really nice to include both a fairing kit, NOSFET, on your wheel that needs a fairing kit, NOSFET, and also pads that are also very much needed on this wheel. Later on though, as said, I did get the Grizzly fairing. Now for the longest time I was riding this wheel with Nylonove pads, and those work very well for me, just a bit of a custom setup. I also really like this pad here on the top, very ergonomic, very nice shape for your leg. This thing really feels nice in between your legs.
That's what she said.
Now when it comes to the mudguard situation, there's a very good mud guarding solution, especially to the top and to the front. To the side a little bit, not enough, but hey, they really wanted this to be an off-road wheel, and I would say it's good enough. Quite a bit of mud spraying here to the sides, but nothing to write home about. Now moving up to the front of the wheel, here we have those bumpers. Those are interchangeable, which is quite nice. And also those plastic pieces, which are also quite easy to remove from this wheel. There's some clips and there's some additional screws. However, I do really think that Leapercam has the better solution here. Their bumpers are a lot more durable and will withstand like harder crashes than the V14. The thing is that those things, they bend, and behind those bumpers here is metal, and metal can bend, and then you will need to either straighten out those parts or buy something new in total. Because if you remove this plastic piece, behind this is something that I don't really trust all that much. And then again, I also do not like clips. I prefer that everything is screwed in because then I don't break it. But that might also be a preference because of my raw treatment of servicing wheels. The handle in the front is very nice, and even though I had quite a bit of crashes or the wheel tumbling at some point, it's quite durable. It's definitely not like my Blitz that just destroys itself and upon impact. It's quite well made. I just don't think it's on the same level as the Veteran wheels. In the front we also have a nice headlight. Again, this light is more sort of street oriented, and that's why I also think that this whole wheel is street oriented. It has a nice beam with a cutoff, so it won't blind people, and it's also not too strong. So if you're going down a hill and the light shines straight in front of you, because hey, the wheel is always balancing, the light angle doesn't change if you're riding down, then you won't blind people so much. But then again, I would really like in the future to have some sort of floodlight on electric unicycles so we can see everything better in off-road situations where there is a lot of hills. Or you just buy a light by Rudy Tech. This is a recent invention from Poland. They have a light that is self-leveling with some sort of LiDAR or sensors, and you can fit it to your Leapercam wheel, and then the light will adjust based on the levels of the ground. Pretty crazy. So maybe we'll see that sometime in the future from the manufacturers themselves, but if you want it right now, then head on over to rudytech.pl.com. Check it out in the description. We'll talk about the suspension in a second, but first let's get on to the taillight. The taillight is excellent, it's very bright, and it's also very well visible even with this Grizzly fairing. I think that other manufacturers should take notice from this. This is essentially how a lighting system should look like on the wheel, and great job InMotion on that. It is a bit exposed, and this light did break on me. This unit that I have inside is broken. I have a spare, but I didn't change it because the access to the cable is a bit more complicated on the inside. A bit confusing, but yeah, they just routed the cables differently. I mean, I would need to remove a lot of silicone to change the light or cut the wires. I just didn't do that. But yeah, the rear taillight is excellent. Just a red light and it's blinking when you're braking. What more can you ask for? This is how it's done. Now the suspension is something that I talk about a bit more, and here it is no different. We have a slider setup with, where's the stanchion? With a stanchion that is sealed. So compared to the setup that we have on Bigode, there you have a dry lubrication with graphite inserts. Here we have some sort of lubrication that is pre-fitted from factory, and the sliders were very clean even after 2,000 kilometers of use. So this is really cool, and the suspension rides pretty smoothly. Now I did have two issues with the suspension. First of all, there was some issue with one of the stanchions. I had some sort of weird clicking noise on the wheel. Something in the right slider. And I'm certainly not the only person experiencing this. Maybe this got resolved in later batches, but we changed this stanchion. I got a spare pretty quickly from InMotion, and now it works very smoothly and nicely. Oh, by the way, big thanks Michał Dychy for helping me change this part. The second part that broke was the rear damper itself, the Fast Ace damper. Yeah, if you didn't know, this is a Fast Ace suspension. I think there were some seals on the inside broken. It also started clicking. I just brought it to Perun Electric in Poland, in Warsaw, and they fixed this suspension for me. Now, it is, I think, a warranty case, but I just got it locally because I didn't want to wait for the parts. So it's not perfect, but I was really also pushing the wheel a lot, doing jumps, casing it. So I don't think it's the worst situation with the suspension here. But after changing those parts, I did do some stunts on this wheel, and for now it's fine. I'm just very picky about what to do. I'm afraid that the bicycle suspension on a 40 kilogram wheel plus a 80 kilogram rider might be just a bit too much. I'm not really sure, but that's at least the impression that I have. When it comes to the suspension design itself, we have, as said, 85 millimeters of travel. We have a progressive spring. So on the top of the throw, is it the throw or the travel? We have a softer suspension, and then it gets progressively harder, just like me in bed.
What?
But as a result, I feel like I usually ride this wheel quite low and it could be a bit stiffer, just like me in bed. Now, maybe I should have added a bit more preload on the wheel, but the suspension still feels a bit limiting on this wheel. I think that at least 100 millimeters of travel is like the bare minimum that we should get on wheels. There's also a very easily accessible compression dial, and it works wonders. Usually when I ride around the city, I have the compression all the way sort of soft, so the wheel feels very soft. And if I want to do some jumps, some tricks, I set the compression to hard. Same with rebound on the back, very easy to set up, just a bit of clicks, and you can adjust the ride to your liking. I didn't have any issues with the rods here. All of the rods are not bent, they're straight. I didn't change on any of them. They hold in place. So yeah, when it comes to the suspension durability, I would say not on par with Veteran, but definitely more durable, at least with the units that I have, than what we get at Begode. It goes without saying though that the suspension in its sort of travel does work very smoothly, and it's very sort of responsive, a very, very fun ride, because I do talk more about fun now. You can notice that the back of the wheel is much changed now, and originally it came with this sort of bumper in the back. Now, while the front bumper is nice, the tail bumper is not. It's quite flimsy, and it's the first thing to break on a crash. Now, you can also say, well, it's good that this breaks because the rest won't break, but then again, like a Veteran wheel crashes and there nothing breaks. So yeah, I did break one of those bumpers before, and then I had the second one, but you know, with a bigger crash, this will just break. I think that the setup here by Grizzly is much better, and it also comes with a kickstand, because this is not a kickstand. Which leads me to the biggest thing missing on the original V14, and that is a seat. Now, if you have a 40 kilogram wheel with a lot of range, I think it goes without saying that you have to include a seat in the box, or at least sell it separately, because I think that InMotion just realized that this is not strong enough for someone to sit on, and that's why they don't have a seat, or maybe they just didn't want to develop it. Seats are important. Like, we do sit a lot on our electric unicycles. So this is a big bummer. And if you do want to have a good seat on your V14, Grizzly is the way to go. It's just a couple parts that you refit to your wheel, and then you can also lift up the seat in order to access your trolley handle. So this is really awesome. Sometimes when I had a really nasty landing, the trolley handle would just like pop out by itself. But yeah, this is it. Awesome seat, very contoured into the center of the wheel. Perfect. Like, this is what you want to get. For a very long time, there was no seat for the V14, so I'm Very, very happy about that. Now moving on to the top of the wheel, again, we have a trolley handle, and I think it's one of the best trolley handles on the market. It has two settings, one in the middle, one higher, but it's really nice to push the wheel around. It's center mounted, so it's well balanced, but still you can feel the heft of the wheel. It's a heavy electric unicycle to push around. In the front, we have a display, which is quite readable, but could be brighter. In direct sunlight, it might be not the best thing to see. And you have a limited amount of information there, like for example, speed, the battery level, and some sort of modes and Bluetooth stuff that you don't really need. I would prefer like temperature of the motherboard, of the motor, or other stuff, odometer. So yeah, a basic screen. Definitely the screen on the V12 and V13 were better, but hey, that's what we get here. Additionally, thing to remember, and it's super annoying, please change that InMotion. I'm very emotional about it. Why does your battery level stop at 5%? And in classic InMotion fashion, dead at 5%. InMotion, please change this. Should be 0%, not 5. Am I the only one complaining about this? You can't drain this wheel to 0% because when you're riding, you get to 6%, it almost doesn't ride, and 5%, it won't allow you to ride at all. If you turn it on and off, it won't balance even anymore. So please, InMotion, 0% is where the ride ends, not 5. Do you understand me? Change that. So yeah, with the rant over, next to the screen we also have a power button. It takes a very, very long time to turn on the wheel for some reason. Okay, I'm lifting up the wheel, pressing the button, now. That's how long I need to hold it. I would like the press to be a bit shorter, maybe some first world problems, but on other wheels I do not need to press the button for such a long time. You also cannot turn on the wheel if the wheel is on a kickstand. So if you want to check the battery level of the V14, you need to lift it up, turn it on, wait, then see, then turn it off, and then put it back on a kickstand. So InMotion, if you would find a way to just let me turn on the wheel on the kickstand, that would be amazing. Like every other wheel has that. A quick double press to turn on the lift switch, so you can lift up the wheel without the wheel spinning. It's a bit annoying to use this feature. Sometimes I just turn on the front light and then I need to turn it off and then wait and press twice again to turn on the lift switch, but this is what we get here. And again, a short press to turn on and off the light. Just not the best button experience. I don't understand, because the whole wheel is very sort of nice, but the button pressing could be better. Here in the back we have the charge ports. Now the thing I don't understand at InMotion is, why do you make things so complicated and not compatible? So the thing is that this wheel is 134 volts, but the port they use is a port that is pretty much standardized for 126 volt wheels. So you both can't charge this wheel with a 134 volt Bigode port, and you can also not charge it with a 126 volt charger for the Patton or for the Kingsong S22, or even for their own InMotion V13. So the InMotion V14 is the only wheel that uses a GX16-6 port for its 134 volt system. Nonsense. And they still keep on doing this. Like, what's going on? Just change this port to the Bigode port and then we can be happy. With all of that said, when it comes to the internals of the wheel, well, you can tell that InMotion is a very big company with a lot of R&D and resources. A lot of parts are properly made and proprietarily made, and also the electronics, they're really sort of like made in a lab. It doesn't look like a garage motherboard like you have at Leaperkim or at Bigode. You can really tell that, you know, they do value their quality, and it seems to work. Like, when it comes to the software experience on this wheel, I was very, very pleased with it. Like, you have always enough headroom, you always have the beeps which tell you that you're going too fast or using too much power, and you also have tilt back. If you go too fast, the wheel will sort of force you to slow down. The only issue I have with the software of this wheel, well, there's actually two. The first one of them is that sometimes when the wheel falls to the side, it just does weird stuff.
Oh.
Ah, eso. Yo pensaba que iba a saltar eso.
Wow.
What?
What the fuck?
What?
Oh my god.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. It just starts writing all over the place. I think it's quite dangerous, and InMotion should look into how to fix this. And the second thing I don't like about the software is berm mode. Now, if you ride a wheel in a performance way and you do pump tracks, you go down, you have berms, then you need the wheel to not turn off when it's leaning. And InMotion is the worst with that, really, because I found it the hard way that berm mode just goes up to 65 degrees of angle. Maybe they changed that in the meantime, but when I was riding it, it was at 65 degrees and it just turns off when you go sideways, and you can really get hurt by that. So this is one of the reasons why I don't think that this is the ultimate performance wheel, because if you want to get up to speed, you need to be sideways, and I don't go even near a pump track or a sharp turn at an angle in the berm on this wheel anymore, because the berm mode is just crap, really. So if you could change that about this wheel to make it up to 70 degrees, 75, or in some way make it intelligent that if you're riding on it, it should not turn off on the corners, like for example Kingsong has that feature, then it would be a lot better. With that said, let me also show you the app of this wheel. So right away you can tell that this app looks very different from apps that usually manufacturers make. Like the Leaperkim app, it looks pretty much like they would program it in Paint. This looks really nice, and I also called my wheel Adventure, which is a pun. Anyway, you can see the speed here, ride time, ride mileage, total mileage, all of the good stuff. You can also lock the wheel, which is awesome if you want to sort of leave it somewhere outside. Turn on and off the light, use the horn. It's just a beep of the beeper, and then you have also three things here. I do think there's an option that if someone would steal your InMotion, then InMotion can actually lock this vehicle so no one can ride it according to the serial number, which is pretty cool. And then you can also discover other products. Okay, just really a upselling page. Nevertheless, there's quite a bit of info here. Most importantly, you have the information about the batteries and about the BMS system. And under battery information here, you can check for all of the BMS info. This is a smart BMS, and this is how it should be. That's awesome. Here you can check if everything about your battery is all right. There's also a lot of data being stored on the wheel, so if it actually breaks and you have some sort of fall, InMotion can read a lot of the details on the report, and it also holds the data for a longer time. So this is really cool about, you know, such a big company too. There's also online service, and they can diagnose your wheel via the smartphone app, which is also super, super awesome. In the settings, you can set your speed clamp at 25 kilometers an hour. So to be sort of legal, there's a speed limit, a tilt back limit, and power assist. This is a feature where the wheel sort of helps you to tilt or doesn't tilt during riding. You can play around with that. I just don't like it, so I have it off. You can set up your ride mode, the pedal hardness, so how much the wheel sort of leans forward and back when braking or accelerating. I have it at 100%. If you want to have a more mild ride, then you can ride it down, but it will never be sort of as stiff as a Bigode wheel. It always sort of moves back and forth a little bit. You can adjust the angle of the wheel. Very annoying here is that there is no point sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 increments like we have at Leaperkim. You can calibrate the wheel and use metric or imperial data. You can set up the daytime running light, turn it on or off. Very cool. Turn on and off the beep. The beloved berm handle mode, and firmware update, all of the good stuff. So a very nice looking app with quite a bit of features on it. One thing missing is that in the turns there is no turn sort of angle correction mode. So if you turn, the wheel does dip slightly to the front, it tilts forward. This is the only feature that is available on just Bigode wheels. So after a year of riding, how can I conclude the InMotion V14? Well, I think it's a great wheel for a lot of people just because it ticks all of the boxes. It comes from a big company. It's fairly well made, and it has a sort of huge resource backing from, again, a big company which, you know, does reassure you a lot. It also has IPX6 for the whole body and IPX7 for the batteries, which is also really important. And yeah, again, it does a lot of the stuff well. I think that the biggest drawbacks of it are really more of a profile of a rider rather than a real drawback. Like, for example, the lower placed batteries, which are not the best for off-road use, but great for balance, really well balanced wheel, and lesser suspension travel, which is okay for most things, but if you go really hardcore off-road, it is not enough. It is still heavy. I would prefer it to be lighter, and maybe a future InMotion wheel could be lighter. And the range is, I would say, about 10 or 15 kilometers less than the same size of battery, or even a smaller battery in the Veteran Patent or Patent S and in the Begode Extreme. The range is definitely a real drawback of this wheel, but probably the only like real thing that I could think of, because even the bearings work. Like, I didn't have any issues with the bearings. I guess the durability of it could be a bit better. Maybe those were issues of sort of first batch wheels, because this was one of them. But yeah, in general, you get quite a bit of bang for the buck. And if you want to have the most durable device, just buy a bicycle. So with that said, if you're still here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.